I guest edited this edition of The Last Straw in 2006 regarding the status of straw bale building codes and permitting throughout the world. And this table I put together to summarize what I had learned regarding codes and mandates in the United States, which is where most of the codes existed at that time. There were a handful outside the US, a limited code in Germany, one in Belarus. And between the date of this, when this table was created, which was 2006, and when the Appendix S was approved in 2013, so 7 years or so, very little changed from this table, at least in the US. One other state, North Carolina, put its own straw bale code into effect, but for the most part, it remained the same. And actually, in this table, this column derived from the Tucson-Piedmont County, Arizona code. There are many yeses in this column, and that's because in the United States, almost every straw bale code was derived from that first load-bearing code in Arizona. There was a parallel code in New Mexico that was non-load-bearing that was also used in the neighboring state and one other jurisdiction. So if people want to read a little more, understand a little more about the status of codes, at least in the United States, there are 2 issues. I wrote an article in 2 issues of The Last Straw. This one a couple of years ago when the appendix was first approved, and then this one very recently, in fact so recently that this edition has not even, I don't know, I think this, other than Jeff Rupert, the editor of The Last Straw, this is probably the first time anyone has seen this, because I just received a proof of this yesterday from Jeff Rupert. So that's really up to date. And this is the article on this kind of update on codes. Jeff, are you in the room? Jeff?
Training for the Olympics.
Oh, he's training for the Olympics. Okay. Because I hadn't even read this, but I can see where under it. He gave this to me as a proof, and I can see where there's one change right now that I'd like to make in that. So. Okay, so there are these 2 appendices that David mentioned earlier, the straw bale appendix and then the light straw clay appendix that are now in the 2015 International Residential Code. So here's this question about why are the international codes important? And now this has been mentioned a couple of times, this misnomer of it being the international code. So that, unfortunately, that's not the reason they're important. The International Code Council, to their credit, well, you could, because really this is well, here we go. It's because these codes are the basis for the building codes of virtually every jurisdiction in the United States. So with them being called the international codes, it could be viewed as just one more annoying thing that Americans are doing. But to their credit, to the ICC's credit, their intent actually is for them to be international. At least they can be used internationally. And ICC has an office in South America, for example. So, and there are some jurisdictions outside the U.S. that are using certain I codes. Now, you could argue whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's certainly their intent that they be offered internationally. I think more importantly, it's important that that international input goes into how these codes are developed. And as I'm speaking that, I'm thinking, David, you and I should have a discussion with ICC officials. Okay. So here we go, the straw bale construction appendix, the light straw clay appendix. Now, at the hearings, committee discusses amongst themselves whatever they want. And after the light straw clay testimony was done, this one committee member said, I recommend that the committee vote to approve. And immediately after that, he said that. And this was a stunning moment for me. I have been working on the straw bale code since 2001, at that point 13 years, and had heard all kinds of things said about this, the straw bale proposal. I had never heard this. And this was really a turning point. I think it signifies a turning point in the way that people who develop codes think about this. Now, after I processed what had just been said, some thoughts went through my mind, like that, for example. I couldn't really believe what I was hearing. And then something like that. And then after it registered that he actually said that, I think I thought something like that. Now, it was just this point where after 13 years of doing this and the stress and all that, everything that went with it, it was, tears. I didn't actually cry, but if I did, it would have been tears of joy or elation. And the straw clay proposal was approved 6-3, the straw bale 9-1. Subsequently, I, with many other people, about 17 design building professionals, wrote this commentary which explains the appendix, and it's actually, I think, as important, if not more important than the appendix itself. You kind of, well, this, if you can see what's red and what's, the black is the text, the red is the commentary, so there's twice as much commentary as there is code language itself. And the code and commentary is available for free download on CASBA's website. We're now that it's in the IRC, we're going through adoptions in all 50 states as much as we can. They all have their particulars. It's a real challenge to get them adopted. But this is a little bit of what's happening in certain states, including California, which approved it December of this year. It'll go into effect in 2017. And we need advocates in every state. It's a real challenge to do this in 50 states. If it's not adopted in a particular jurisdiction, it can be proposed. That's been done already in the state of California. Now, the IRC is for 1 and 2 family dwellings, so what about non-residential buildings? We expect to make a proposal for the International Building Code, which would include all buildings in a few years. But in the meantime, the residential appendix could actually be proposed for non-residential use. What's next? There are 3, these codes are living documents. They change, as they should. There's a 3-year cycle for the I codes, and so 3 code change proposals were, I just submitted them a month ago. And then proposed changes are open to anyone, so it's going to be a bit of a surprise. In fact, I think it's tomorrow when all the proposals are released, whether someone else that I've never seen or heard of makes a proposal. It's an open process, as it should be, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And as I talked about with international, we're looking for, we confined it mostly to U.S. practitioners because we knew it was really for use in the U.S., but these things spill out of the U.S. And in New Zealand, I know, has been using what we did in the States as a starting point, at least for their New Zealand guidelines. So I'm now more interested, or I feel like I'm ready to be interested and invite input from all over the world on what we're doing in these I codes. So please feel free to tell me how wonderful or how horrible you think the code is. Continuing advocacy in the States, ongoing testing, So there it is. This is testing, testing, testing. This is all the same test, but I say it 3 times for emphasis. I can't overemphasize the importance of testing. This is structural testing that's ongoing in Santa Clara University, but testing in every aspect. Okay. So structural, moisture, thermal, fire, all the aspects of straw bale construction that we know of. So what's the future of natural building systems and materials in the codes? I feel very strongly that the straw bale appendix opens the door for other natural building systems.